Oscar De La Hoya continues to troll Canelo Alvarez. Now he says that he's coming back and he's taking back what's rightfully his. Before we get into this next video, make sure that you like the video and sub to the channel if you're not already a sub to the channel. So Oscar De La Hoya, he's back on his BS again. He continuing to troll Canelo Alvarez, and now he's telling Canelo Alvarez that he's coming back to the sport of boxing to take what's rightfully his. Recently, Oscar De La Hoya, he takes to the internet and he does an interview. Now, Oscar De La Hoya, we know that he's been talking and trolling a lot when it comes to Canelo Alvarez. And let's just keep it real. Oscar De La Hoya is bitter that he lost his prized possession and he can't let it go. You know, he's bitter that he lost his prized possession. And let me take y'all back to some history. You know, we all know that Oscar De La Hoya, he lost to Floyd Mayweather back in 2007, right? Oscar De La Hoya, he's never been able to get over the loss of Floyd Mayweather, right? So two people that he always trolls and he always is talking stuff about is Floyd Mayweather, and the newest one is Canelo Alvarez. We know Oscar De La Hoya is like a bitter woman. You know, once he loses something, he cannot ever get over it and he can't just move on. Now, recently, he lost Canelo Alvarez and he's bitter about the situation because Oscar De La Hoya, he basically put his whole company through the ringer to promote Canelo Alvarez, right? He destroyed his whole company trying to promote Canelo Alvarez. And the reason I say that is because at one point in time, Oscar De La Hoya had the best roster in boxing. Oscar De La Hoya had a young Adrian Broner. He had a young Errol Spence. He had Deontay Wilder. He had the Charlo brothers. He had Marcos Maidana. He had Lucas Matisse. I mean, he had a hell of a roster. He had everybody that was anybody in the sport of boxing. But see, Oscar De La Hoya, he couldn't keep his nose clean and he couldn't keep his lips off of the bottle. So he lost his company. Basically, he lost all of his fighters. You know, he kept his company, but he lost all of his fighters. But one of the fighters that he did not lose was Canelo Alvarez. Now, Canelo Alvarez, he should have left too. And now he realizes that he should have left Golden Boy when all the other fighters left with Richard Schaefer. But see, Canelo Alvarez was very loyal to Oscar De La Hoya, and he ended up staying with Oscar De La Hoya. Now, Oscar De La Hoya, he made Canelo Alvarez a mega superstar. But see, he put all of his eggs in one basket. What Oscar De La Hoya did is the fighters, the superstar fighters that did stay with him, he ignored them. He didn't promote them. And he never worked on trying to get any more talent. You feel me? Oscar De La Hoya pretty much basically just focused on promoting Canelo Alvarez to make Canelo Alvarez the superstar that he is today. So he did a very good job with Canelo Alvarez. But he basically dissed all of his other fighters to put all of his eggs in one basket and put all of his focus on Canelo Alvarez. Now, when the business didn't turn out like it was supposed to with Canelo Alvarez, years after years after years of Canelo complaining behind the scenes, he finally decided to leave Oscar De La Hoya. He finally decided to leave Oscar De La Hoya. They went through a nasty breakup. At the end of the day, Canelo Alvarez was finally able to get out of his contract. Now, Oscar De La Hoya feels some way about that. You know, because let's just keep it 100. Let's keep it real. Oscar De La Hoya, he don't have nothing left. Ain't nobody checking for Jaime Munguia. I don't even know if he still has Jaime Munguia on his roster. But the fighters that Oscar De La Hoya has on his roster, nobody's really checking for them except for Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz is the only thing that he has left. But Virgil Ortiz, he's marketable, you know, somewhat, but he don't speak like that. Canelo Alvarez, he didn't speak like that, but he did speak to the Mexican fan base. He did speak in Spanish. He talked shit but the American fan base didn't understand him for the most part. But he did talk shit, in the Mexican media, right? So anyway, with that being said, he no longer has Oscar De La Hoya, and he continues to troll Oscar De La Hoya because he can't get over the fact that he lost his prized possession. He's trolled Canelo Alvarez on the way he fights. He says that Canelo Alvarez has bad techniques. He's tried to break down little flaws that Canelo Alvarez has in his game and all of that. But see, the thing is Oscar De La Hoya never had the nuts that Canelo Alvarez has. He never had the toughness that Canelo Alvarez has. Now, don't get me wrong. Oscar De La Hoya was a hell of a fighter. He fought any and everybody in his era. He fought the best, win, lose, or draw. So I could never take that away from Oscar De La Hoya. He's one of the best that we've ever seen in the sport. Olympic gold medalist, and he was a hell of a fighter. But you've never seen Canelo Alvarez quit. You never seen Canelo Alvarez drop with no body shot, none of that, right? And I'm not saying Canelo is better than Oscar De La Hoya, but he damn sure tougher than Oscar De La Hoya, right? Canelo has a chin of granite. Canelo got a whole lot of skills too. Now, do I think that Canelo has the skills that Oscar De La Hoya had? No, but he is a great fighter, right? And that's why Oscar De La Hoya, he noticed that very early on, and that's why Oscar De La Hoya put all of his eggs in one basket, and that basket was Canelo Alvarez, right? So anyway, Oscar De La Hoya is saying now that he's coming back to boxing. We've been hearing for a long time that Oscar De La Hoya's been coming back. He had an opponent in George St. Pierre, but that didn't fall through because Dana White said, nope, that ain't happening. George St. Pierre is still under contract with the UFC, and I'm not letting him go over there for that clown show. That's what he said. So with that being said, Oscar De La Hoya was left without an opponent. Oscar De La Hoya was left with a whole lot of time to troll. He's still trolling Floyd Mayweather, saying that, he's going to make Floyd Mayweather fight him. Get over it. Floyd Mayweather beat you. That fight happened in 2007. He beat you. Leave it alone. Let it go. He's never going to fight you again. And the thing about it is Floyd Mayweather beat you, and you had all of your rules in place. You made him fight with the gloves he wanted to fight. That you wanted him to fight with. You made him fight inside the ring size you wanted him to fight in. You made him fight at the weight that you wanted him to fight at. All of that was in your favor, and you still lost. Get over it. Now, you had Canelo Alvarez. You had him, right? You was running his career. You was telling him who to fight, who not to fight. You was in control of everything. All you had to do was do the business right. And you couldn't do that, and you ended up losing him, right? But now you continue to basically troll this man, knowing that you guys put a gag order on Canelo Alvarez. See, if y'all don't know, Canelo, he can say small things, but he can't talk about in detail what really happened between him and Oscar De La Hoya, because one of the agreements that they made in order for Canelo Alvarez to get out of his contract is that Canelo couldn't talk about any of the details of what went on with him and Golden Boy. They put a gag order on Canelo Alvarez. So now Oscar De La Hoya, knowing that, he's using that to his advantage. He's trolling Canelo Alvarez. He's talking a lot of shit to Canelo Alvarez because he knows that Canelo Alvarez, he can't pop off like he wants to. Canelo Alvarez can't talk back like he wants to because you put a gag order on him. So you continue to troll him. You saying that you coming back and you'll beat his ass. Now you saying that you're coming back and you're going to take his September date that was yours back in the day. If people don't know, Oscar De La Hoya did fight on that Mexican Independence Day weekend, right? He did fight on that weekend. He had the Julio Cesar Chavez fight on that Mexican Independence Day weekend. So, Oscar De La Hoya, he was the original one to do it. And when you talk about him or Canelo Alvarez, now we know that Julio Cesar Chavez, he used to fight on Mexican Independence Day. He was, one of the first ones that really made it popular in boxing to fight on that day. Then Oscar De La Hoya took it over, then Floyd Mayweather, and so on. But Oscar De La Hoya is saying now that he coming back and he's going to take that date. Now, Oscar De La Hoya is a damn fool if he thinks that he's going to be able to compete with Canelo Alvarez. Oscar De La Hoya needs to realize that he is the thing of the past. What is present, what's now, is Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez will beat your ass. Stop trolling him, because you can't get in the ring and you couldn't last around with Canelo Alvarez. Just stop. Let it go. Stop being bitter about the situation. Let it go. You had all of these fighters. You had Canelo Alvarez. You lost them. Let it go. You turned into a drunk cokehead troll. Just let the whole situation go and move on. You making yourself look real bad out here. But anyway, let me know what y'all think about this situation. Oscar De La Hoya is saying that he's coming back to take that September date. Put a comment in the comment section and make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the video if you're not already a sub. There you go, talking that boxing again. I'm gone.